temporary workers, they have no rights. We want them for their labor, but we don't want to give them rights for citizenship, rights for this, rights for that, Filipino men get pregnant, you better go back to the Philippines, we should probably can't support you here. So that's a big issue here. So that's no problem. So the question obviously, the election that came up is that there were too many foreigners and Singaporeans want a Singaporean Singapore. So that's a big challenge, obviously, of whether you can meet, you have a very small group of people having to support a larger and larger group of dependent populations. So can we do that? I don't know. Relative poverty, obviously we are the richest, perhaps in Southeast Asia and one of the richest in Asia, but by God, we have poverty. You just got to go around and look at the HDB flats in some place. I visited one of the HDB flats. Well, the whole flat is populated by aged people, and my friend does charity work there. Every Saturday he's there. The Gardenia van will come, and Gardenia donates bread to all these old people, 3-4 old people in one flat, and then they're all coming down. I was there, he's handing out each loaf. And he says, Victor, you cannot believe the tragedy you're watching before your eyes. There are only 8 slices of bread in a loaf. And each of these old people have got to decide a day whether they're going to eat a slice of bread in the morning for tea or in the afternoon for tea time. Morning for breakfast. Because there's only 1 slice per day. There are only 8 slices, so it's exactly 1 tea. So, these are the realities out there. You go to HDB estates, there are a whole lot of blocks that are there for these poor people. So it's an issue here. Poverty, relative poverty, issue. And then climate change, obviously we are facing that. We've got a tremendous amount of floods taking place. We have obviously a very proactive system now, because the biggest impact of climate change in Singapore is going to be obviously sea level rise, and that's why we've got the whole Dutch team here looking at all the various options, because the Dutch are building huge dikes, to prevent. They are closer to Greenland, so where the snow is melting fast, and we are. You cannot say that climate change is not taking place, because when you go all over the islands, etc. I mean, look at the Pacific Islands. They've got all sorts of evacuation plans, all right, to get out people from the islands. And Australia and New Zealand have been very generous in giving all the Pacific Islanders a hope, should they need to be evacuated. The Maldives, unfortunately, are not so lucky. 300,000 people. The president that was elected in 2008 said, my manifesto is to try and find a way to evacuate all the 300,000 Maldivians with climate change. But who was addicted? India is so populous, forget it. The only guys who are going to get out of the Maldives are the people who have money to move. So that's the kind of reality we have to deal with. So we have a reality here, given that when the waters rise, it's going to obviously inundate all our things that are taking place in the Mekong Delta. In Vietnam, as you know, the sea level water, because of climate change, has moved inland. And practically, I guess 1/3 to 1/2 of the Mekong Delta is drowned out by saline water, and that affects obviously rice growth. So that's a big problem. And one of the big things, when you look at all the literature on climate change, by all the different historians have got into this big time now, is that the single most determinant for the collapse of civilizations in the history of civilizations has got to do with prolonged drought. Every major civilization has collapsed because of prolonged drought. Historians are beginning to reinterpret, as it were, history. And then we have obviously the great Cambridge historian Lieberman, who's done a 2-volume work on the history of Southeast Asia, and for the first time he has put together all the cycles of climate change together with the rise and fall of civilizations, and there's a direct correlation between the rise of civilizations, when there's huge amount of abundant rainfall, etc. And the downfall of civilization, so there's prolonged drought for decades, probably 1-2 centuries. That happens basically in Southeast Asia. So there are now obviously a serious kind of issue that dealing with this problem. And obviously, one of my arguments is that China is facing major drought. And they have been secretly working on a very important project on river capture. China is not interested in Tibet for political reasons. China is interested in Tibet for geographic reasons. Because all the headwaters of the major rivers are in Tibet. And if they can tap those rivers and direct the river across what is called a river capture, from one river, get it across, you've got a good supply of water. And so, I guess the Indians are beginning to suddenly wake up the realization, there's something here that is gone beyond basically just a political issue with Buddhism or whatever it is. There's a very, very strong kind of environmental reason that is there. They've been doing this for decades, actually. It's not something, they suddenly woke up. They recognize basically the problems that they face. And you look at the Himalayan system, all right, you have on the western side the thawing of the Himalayas that's leading to these huge floods in the Indus Valley because it's thawing much faster, and you've got this huge drowning of the Indus Valley. But on the eastern side of the Himalayas, it's actually not thawing as fast, so you don't have the same, because if we had thaws as fast, then the Mekong River will flood. And September is the month where the river systems in Southeast Asia are the highest because of the whole summer is gone, that thaws out the glacial areas in the Himalayas. And so by September, the thawed area is just flowing downstream, and so all the rivers are at their highest peak. So we're in the September, October, where you're talking about the peak, and after that it starts dropping again. Because then winter comes, and then all the ice gets back, and you have a glacial thing in the Himalayas area. So here you are. Do we have economic sustainability? Now, this is actually from the World Bank report, not my own fictitious report. But here you can see, can you imagine, 10 families own 57% of Indonesia's wealth. 10 families in the Philippines, 52%. Singapore, 26.6%. 10 families, not 10 corporations, not 10 conglomerates, 10 families. Alright. So when you look at this table, you understand what I'm talking about, the question of inequality of wealth. Japan is the only country that doesn't have this problem. Their 10 families only earn 2.5% of their wealth. But all the other countries, you can see, the disparity of wealth is enormous, huge. So, market capitalization of the top 10 families selected countries in 1996. All right, this is the World Bank's report, which was published in 2006. All right, so there you are. You can see what we are looking at in terms of the equity of wealth, in terms of what it is